Lust is an uncontrolled or illicit desire or appetite. We generally associate it with sex, but it's about appetite like gluttony and greed. It's about an appetite for the forbidden. It's about self-gratification. It's an overmastering craving. We are going to talk about the deadly effect of lust, how it is destroying our lives, and why we must do everything possible to be in lust. We live in a world that's full of lust. If you go to the street right now, you will see people having to exhibit all manner of lust. Lust is that desire that seeks to overpower us and make slave to our desire. Eating food is not a sin, but when you lust after food, it can drive you to gluttony. Sex is not a sin, but when lust after woman so that you can them on your bed, then it becomes a sin. We must learn to draw the line between God's good gift to mankind and the lusting after those good gifts. Everything God has given to us is for our enjoyment and for our good, but we must learn to control them. Sexual desires was put in us by God, not the devil. The devil did not put that feeling to fall in love with a person inside you. Trust me when I say the devil doesn't like you to put such a good feeling inside of you. The problem is when we don't learn to control and master that sexual desire inside. We make ourselves slaves of the desire. We must be aware of the effect that lust can do to a person. We must realize that lust is the main reason why a lot of people live in all kinds of addiction. Now, what are the deadly effects of lust? Lust will change the way we see people and things. Lust makes us see people as objects for our own gratification and pleasure. A lot of people think that they are in love. They don't even realize that they are walking in lust. They are lusting after the person. The focus is not the person, but the sexual benefits that comes as a result of being in a relationship. For most relationships, if you take out the sex and all the sexual activities involved, there will be nothing to enjoy in the relationship. That proves that the relationship is fueled by the lust of the flesh. When you see people object, you will do everything to pretend that you love them, just so that your selfish desire for sex can be satisfied. What a lot of people fail to understand is that lust is never satisfied. Don't be deceived. Lust is never satisfied. There is an unending craving for more. The more you eat, the more you want to eat. The more you have sex, the more you want to have sex. The more you watch that series, the more you want to watch that series. A lot of people are hooked to the internet. They have all kinds of lusts they seek to satisfy every day. When a person wakes up in the morning because of lust for their phone or lust for the internet, they go to their phone and uncontrollably spend the next 2 hours scrolling through stuffs again and again. They never see anything wrong with it because that lust in them has blinded their eyes to not see any wrong in wasting their time. God is waiting for you to seek His face in the morning so that He can give you clear directions for your day. Instead, we are drawn by our own lust. Every person has some lust. Some have decided to control it and put it under check. Others have decided to be ruled by their lust. James 1 verse 14 to 15, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it brings forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. Every person is tempted when you are enticed by your lust. Lust here simply means desire. God was the very one who put desires inside of us and also the ability to desire things. But if desires are not controlled, then we will be slaves. We know that all lust has the same agenda, and that is to make you a slave to your own desire and ultimately lead you to sin. I want us to talk about sexual lust because most people are suffering from the effect of this type of lust. Our culture says that pornography, promiscuity, and adultery are harmless fun. Some psychologists say lust is healthy. Many use pornography thinking they're not hurting anyone because it's just me and pictures. Husbands and fathers think they're not corrupting their wives and children because the wife and kids don't see what I'm doing. Singles think they're not hurting anyone because they're not married. But sex addiction has devastating effects on the struggler with lust and those around him. Sexual lust will make you a slave to sexual immorality even though you are a Christian. Like a crack addict, the sex user is ruled by his compulsion to act out even though he hates what he is doing. Another effect is that for most people, the shame from his sexual act and the fear of being exposed becomes very powerful motivators to keep him trapped in isolation. He closes himself up, not realizing that he is creating a vacuum of emptiness inside. This vacuum of emptiness becomes increasingly unbearable, and then he tries to fix it by acting out sexually. But his acting out sexually only produces more shame and emptiness, and the vicious cycle continues. To try to run from the mess he is on the inside, he fakes it on the outside. Some throw themselves into their career, mistakenly thinking the temporary successes of their job can fill their deep hunger for love. Others try to use ministry. They put on their someday happy face and get busy for God, making all the right noises to impress others with how good a Christian they are. But helping others can't soothe their lonely and aching heart, and so the addict soon becomes a Pharisee. Some try to fill their growing emptiness with food, drugs, alcohol, people, relationships, and of course more sexual acting out. But nothing satisfies, and the addict's emptiness only intensifies, keeping him trapped in the cycle of misery. More and more his perception about God, life, family, and every else begins to change. He starts running away from God. The thing he once believed were wrong now look right because he has to justify his lustful desire. If he is single, he corrupts his future marriage. He thinks that when he gets married, lustful addiction for sex will stop, only to find out that, after a few years, he becomes divorced because he was caught cheating on his partner. He hurts his wife and his children deeply, and he feels depressed and wants to take his life. It all started as one simply desire of lust, but now the effects seem unending. Lust is hidden in our decisions and choices. It is lust for power that makes people not to be submissive to authorities. It is sexual lust that makes someone sleep around with a person that they are not married to. Why do you think people are in addictions they don't want to be in? The truth about lust is that lust never says enough. By that I mean there is always a desire for more. This is what makes addiction become strongholds in the lives of people. They create external tactics and strategies on how to deal with lust, and then they find out that they are back to the same spot. Lust doesn't have a long-term satisfaction. The last pleasure is never enough. It wants more. A lot of people are under the bondage of addiction because they couldn't stop themselves when they started. This is why we always advise people to stop sin at the very first time. Because that little thing you did, and you called it a one-time thing, may become the reason for an addiction tomorrow. Lust is very forceful. It may not start forceful, but it will become forceful and make you look like you cannot do without it. The truth is that you will not be tested with more than you can handle. If that test seems like it's impossible to overcome, just remember that in Corinthians 10 verse 13, there hath no temptation taken you but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way to escape, that ye may be able to bear. This is the reason why we must always live in the Spirit and walk in the Spirit, because we don't know the hour of our temptation. Lust will drag you into a pit you don't want to go to. Lust will take you to a place you never imagined you will be. There are things you will say you will never do, but if you don't control the lust inside, you may find yourself going against your word. Lust will make you watch what you said you will never watch. It will make you touch who or what you said you will never touch. It's easy to talk about people who commit adultery, and despite them. But I am not making an excuse for them, but the truth is, no one goes into a marriage with the intention to commit adultery. If you do not deal with your lust while you are single, it will destroy your home while you are married. If you will deal with your lust now, you will not have any need to struggle with sin.